Hey everybody, welcome back to Bad Relationship Advice with Damian and Monica, your one-stop shop for real people with real issues. Monica, how's it going?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. We are continuing our series today on the path of the organic portal by way of the seven deadly sins. And we are just exploring this classic idea that the seven deadly sins are they're not good.
Deadly to the
Not good.
spirits,
Yes, that
by the
is,
way.
you nailed it. It's exactly
Told
right.
you.
Deadly to the spirit, because our channel, this is all about helping people on their path to spiritual enlightenment, right? We're like, when you go to a national park and you see the park rangers, we're the park rangers on the path to spiritual enlightenment. So, without further ado, today's topic, Monica,
Anger,
also known as
wrath.
wrath, classic wrath. It's interesting when you look up wrath, a lot of times, well, anger just pops up as well. So, we're going to talk about the definition. One definition is an intense emotional state involving a strong, uncomfortable, and non cooperative response to a perceived provocation, hurt, or threat. And I think that's really important to keep in mind that if you are becoming angry, it's in response to something. I don't think anger just spontaneously arises. Do you?
Right. And it could be in response to our thoughts about something, right? So it doesn't have to
Totally.
be, you know,
Yeah, you could get, I mean, that, and that's automatically that opens up a huge can of worms because it's like, am I angry about something that actually happened? Am I angry about something that I think happened? Am I angry about something that hasn't even happened yet, but that it possibly could happen? And all of the above is true. You can get angry for, I mean, you hear comedians complain about, my partner got angry the other day because they thought I was going to want to do this one thing. And it's like, we create so many situations in our mind that we get angry over.
right. And also like what we consider as threats, right? Can be very, something we perceive as threats, because I think the whole thing about the threat is it's triggers. So our brain tends to go very negative naturally because it's perceiving things as threats all the time. And
Right.
when we get angry, it's because we see something as, a threat to could be our physical safety, but it could also be, our ego or something like this. So
Yeah,
I think sometimes, yeah.
anger is seen as a defense mechanism. If you're out in the,
Yeah.
I think another definition was, when you decide to stop, so it becomes the predominant feeling behaviorally, cognitively, and physiologically when a person makes the conscious choice to take action to immediately stop whatever that threatening behavior is, whether or not it's real or not.
Yeah. And sometimes, and oftentimes what can happen, right, is we get triggered. Why do you think people get triggered? So there's certain things that tend to trigger people on situations. For example, it could be getting stuck in traffic, and you're in traffic, you or someone cuts us off, right? And so like I'm kind of actually that. I know when I used to ride my bike a lot, which I do less now, but and I used to ride my bike to just all the repairs and stuff, and I would be one of those angry bike riders. I would just get so annoyed whenever there would be like any pedestrian, like even if I was running every red light and so on, if anyone got in my way, I would just kind of like tell him off. I'd be just angry, just like get out of my way, all of this stuff. I'm going fast and like you're so like slowing me down. Anyone that was, because I was a fast rider, and like anyone that was just slower, even like a slower rider, I would like the worst would come out of me. And so like
It does seem like that morning commute brings out the absolute worst in people. I mean, in fact, in the United States, there's shootings every year because people get
Road
angry on the
rage.
road. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, yeah. And I think part of it has to do with people tend to get more angry when there's more people around. And I think that again, it's like we're getting triggered. Our brain, sort of our kind of our animal,
The
the
lizard brain.
primal part of the brain, the reptilian brain is triggered, right? And so like when we're in that kind of reptilian brain mindset, then we're thinking, we're a lot more emotional, so we react emotionally, and then that completely, so we're not actually accessing our frontal cortex, which is kind of more of the one where the thinking, kind of imagining and so on. And so when we're in that state of anger, we're not very clever. And in fact, and so we'll do things that we will regret. There's this quote by Ambrose Pierce: speak when you are angry and you will make the best speech you will ever regret. Right?
Yeah.
So because it's sort of like we're not triggering our intelligent creative part of our brain. We're just kind of like, we become like animals and we just react. And being around, I think people is the brain naturally is more scanning for threats. So we're sort of, our reptilian brain is being triggered. And so that's why we tend to react differently when we feel like there's a crowd or we're stuck, there's traffic, there's just a lot of people around. Like morning traffic, there's just a lot of people out on the road.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and it's just an inherently dangerous situation. Being on the road with lots of cars is dangerous, so your stress levels are up anyway. Plus, you're going to work, which for most people is not their favorite place to go. You know, sitting on what is it, the 405? Is that in Los Angeles? Do you know?
Maybe, I don't know,
I'm
because I
thinking about the
don't
one
know.
that goes to Santa Monica, but it's like, yeah, I mean, it's just bumper to bumper, 8 lanes traffic. You're not going to get anywhere fast. Yeah, it can be
Yeah.
infuriating.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Eckhart Tolle, talks specifically about anger as being an extremely powerful energy that arises quickly. But if you can catch it as it is arising, not trying to stop it, because suppressing it, that's a whole other thing that we need to talk about. But like just recognizing anger for what it is, like feeling it starting to stir inside of yourself and being able to say, I am starting to get really angry right now. Just acknowledging it. You by shining that light on it, by just, it can't sneak up on you and take you over, because that's when we really end up regretting how we behave, is after anger has taken us over. We've completely lost all reason. We're in our lizard brain.
Yeah.
And when it all cools down, then we can look back and be like, oh my gosh, wow. If we take responsibility for our actions, we can look back and feel ashamed of how we acted, feel embarrassed, that kind of stuff. Of course, your organic portals most likely are not going to take responsibility for that. They're going to make excuses for their anger, or they're going to blame somebody else.
So I guess it's a question of just sort of noticing it and sort of taking a step back from it, right?
Right.
In order to,
Which is
because
not
it's,
easy because it comes up so fast.
yeah, it can just kind of take hold of you and then
Now I
make
wanted
you
to go ahead.
and then make you kind of respond, right? And then regret what you just did, your
Totally.
response to something.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's not the thing is it's nothing shameful to feel angry. Like anger is normal, anger is natural. The bad thing is when you let anger take over. Even then, like sometimes it's strong, it's swift, it's fast, it takes over, and even then it's like, okay, that's fine. You got to take responsibility for it. You can't blame someone else for your behavior because you got angry about something that may or may not have even happened. This happens all the time. Can you think of a time? I'm going to start because I've got an example here fresh in my mind, but I was just thinking about a time where you felt really angry. Anger got a hold of you. You acted in a way that later you regretted. So the example I'm going to think of is I was a college student. I was on a athletic team, and the athletic, my fellow teammates, they got together behind my back to hook me up with somebody on the team that I had no idea that that was happening. I had no idea that they were doing that. And when I found out, for some reason, it set me off. It made me so angry. I felt betrayed and lied to by all these other people. I mean, keep in mind, I mean, they're trying to hook me up with somebody. Like, it's not like they were trying to do something bad, you know?
Yeah.
It was just kind of, but I felt embarrassed. I felt humiliated. I felt lied to, had all these strong feelings. Plus, I felt kind of violated, like who I date and who I'm interested in is none of your business.
Mm.
Like that, anyway, it set me off. So I walked down the hall as soon as there was a big trash can full of like, stuff college students throw away. So like pizza boxes, chicken wings, all this stuff. It was full to the brim. And I kicked it as hard as I could, and just shit went everywhere, you know? And I was like
Mm-hmm.
shouting. I was just a ball of rage. And I just went back to my room, shut the door, and turned the music up real loud, you know?
Wow.
And, um, you know, after a while, calmed down. And I was just like so embarrassed. I felt justified. I was like, I felt angry for a reason. I wouldn't have gotten angry if they hadn't done this. But I also recognized that trashing that whole side of their hall was not necessarily the appropriate response to them trying to hook me up with one of my teammates. So I went over there, I picked up all the trash, I apologized to the people, and which in a way was even more humiliating and more embarrassing. But at the end of the day, I felt better having at least gathered some semblance of, responsibility and taken responsibility for my action, instead of, it could have been very easy to been like, no, I'm not cleaning that up. Fuck you guys. You're the ones who made me mad. Like blaming
Right.
it on them, blaming my
Yeah.
behavior and my anger on them. Really
Yeah.
easy to do. I feel like a lot of people do this, and it's not, no one's responsible for your behavior except you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, it's true. And I think that I think an interesting question also would be, how do we deal with angry people?
Hmm. Well, and there's another side of it too, because some people enjoy provoking the wrath, right? Some
Yeah.
people enjoy making other people angry. They enjoy that lack of control that they can introduce into the other person's psyche or behavior or whatever. Like, when I was little, I mean, I had a little brother, and it was just pleasure for me to provoke him until he lost it and he got to
Hmm.
that angry state. And when you think about it, that is so fucked up. That is so fucked up to
Yeah.
do to somebody, to like push their buttons. But as children, I don't think we really have the ability. We don't have that metacognition developed where we can realize what we're doing. We're just, all we care is about ourselves. All we care about is entertaining ourselves. And
Yeah, entertain. I was just thinking
yeah,
that.
it's
Yeah.
entertaining, and I don't care how, I don't even, it doesn't even occur to me how my actions might affect somebody else. I'm not even able to think or put myself in another person's shoes at that point. All I can think about is
Mhm.
myself, and how, how I can entertain myself. But when we're doing that shit into adulthood, that is seriously fucked up. And we see that stuff all the time on social media. People get on there and troll each other like crazy, and they just delight in making other people furious. And it's almost like you somehow feel like you've beaten them in a way, like you win somehow. I don't quite understand it, even though I can understand the feeling. I don't understand the logic behind it. But
I think it's like, I think it's about kind of vibrating on a sort of frequency, and you're kind of trying to, if you are on that sort of low frequency of anger, right?
yeah.
Then you kind of want to like pull people down on that vibration. So
Yes,
I think
yes,
like,
yes.
like, and I think the highest vibration and the most powerful one is one of love, So if we sort of approach a person who's just like really angry with love, then and that could just be like letting like, and when I mean love, I don't mean like loving the fact that they're angry or whatever,
Right.
but I just mean in that sense of kind of seeing them as, you know, this is their weakness and this is kind of who they are, and, you know, accepting that they're sort of stuck in a certain way of going through the world, and just kind of watching them do it, but not sort of get triggered by it.
Non-reactivity, I think, is
non-reactivity, yeah,
part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I find like, for example, when I've had to deal with people with anger issues, and I've realized that when I get into it with them, I go down to their level.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it just creates this monster in a way.
But that's what they want.
That's what they want, but I think that's not very effective, right? Because clearly it's not very effective. And I think the best strategy is when someone's angry, walk away, you know, let them stay with their anger, because in the end, like when they can't kind of like pull you in, well, then they're just left with themselves. Like if you walk away, then they're just left with themselves, and they're like, I guess you could continue to be angry, but it's just you, right? So, you know, and I find that to be, even my cat, like sometimes when she'll attack me, what I'll do is I'll put her on timeout for like, you know, a couple minutes, and then she chills out. Then she's totally chill, you know? So it's almost like we have to put other people on timeout. And
yes,
I find that to be very effective.
And it sounds like with that counting to 10 strategy, you're almost putting yourself on timeout. Right?
Yeah. So the counting to 10 strategy, which, so I think one of the things about counting to 10 of like kind of not being in that reptilian brain, but just, you know, activating other parts of the brain where we're no longer just kind of reacting and just in that emotional state, you know?
Yeah.
And so we're able to kind of reason and take a step back.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, it's, I feel like uncontrolled anger, and that's the thing, it's not a question of controlling it. It's just, I really feel like acknowledging it, recognizing it, and then knowing what to do when you feel it too. Like I think a lot of people, well, I feel like I was kind of raised to feel like it's not okay to be angry, you know? Like if you feel angry, then you should suppress it and act like you're not angry. But suppressed anger doesn't go anywhere. It just grows and will find its way out in any number of different ways, right? I mean, it can come out as an eating disorder. It can come out as, you know, violence against somebody else. It could come out again as just
depression.
Yeah, depression. So
right.
It has to be acknowledged. Like just being able to say, I feel angry is huge.
And you maybe like also like remembering that this is an energy that we can maybe transform into other ways. We have outlets, right? To kind of, how do I get this anger out in a way that's not going to hurt myself or other people?
Right.
And, you know, there's lots of different things we can do. I mean, even things like, you know, very basic things like going and just like exercising or meditating in terms of like taking a step back and observing and really asking ourselves, why are we really triggered? Is this person really meaning to make us angry? And do I have to be angry? And remembering that we have a lot of control over how we react to things. And the thing of just kind of like taking a step back and seeing it coming and, you know, just, I remember the other day, I was just getting really annoyed because like, I just missed the elevator. And then I just felt like myself, like I'm about to get triggered. And then I thought, okay, this is what this is going to feel like. This is what this feels like. I'm feeling this kind of anger coming on, and I'm just going to like watch it, observe it, let it go through me. And then it just passed.
Yes.
And otherwise I could have just gotten angry, annoyed. Yeah. Then I see someone, my neighbor, then I'm kind of in an annoyed mood. And then it just kind of creates something that doesn't even have to be there. So,
right. And it's contagious.
and it's contagious. And then we create this like energy. And so again, we're vibrating on a lower level,
right.
At that point. So, but it could also be energy that we can just use for even positive things. Like if we're feeling angry, okay, what do we do with this energy so it's more positive and it kind of transform it into something?
You can exercise, you can use that anger about, that if you have some self-loathing going on because of the shape of your body, or you feel angry that your brother is in perfect health, but you have high cholesterol, you can use that to fuel yourself in a positive direction. If you're angry that one of your coworkers hit a higher sales target than you did, you can use that anger to motivate yourself to do better, while being mindful that you're not expressing that anger as a toxic energy towards that other person, because now, we don't know how that other person achieved that sales target, but just this is about you and what's best for you. And just, it is energy. So why not choose to use it for something that's going to benefit you? And no, taking revenge on somebody is not going to benefit you. It might make you feel better in the short term, but you're always going to know that you felt pleasure at someone else's pain, and that's not going to help you along your spiritual path.
Yeah, or even like being passive aggressive, right? That's not going to help. And being and if someone is triggering us or making us angry, or again, I don't know if no one's making us angry, we choose to it. There's a definite choice. But if we feel angry towards someone or something, then, maybe have a conversation, communicate. And if that person is purposely trying to trigger us, well, then leave the room, or give them a timeout in a sense, and so on. And I think those are just things to and figure out how to just transform it to something that is productive and not kind of realizing that if we're kind of approaching things from a positive, the anger is not who we are, not identifying with it so much. It's just an emotion that's going to pass the way other things pass, like the weather passes.
It's a very powerful energy field that will take you over. And then when it passes, you get to clean up the mess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not bringing out the best versions of ourselves when we're angry. So just keeping that in mind.
Right.
That,
in our primal past, it served a very good function. If a animal kills one of our favorite people, the blind rage that invokes could help us to survive that situation and maybe even eliminate that threat so that more of our loved ones don't get killed. And of course, that still happens today with wars and feuds. A member of one group gets killed, so then they take revenge, they kill someone else, and it goes back and forth and back and forth. But at some point, we have to realize that it's not easy, but it's ultimately hurting us all.
Yeah.
All right, Monika.
All right.
The next episode is going to be our final deadly sin, pride. I have no idea how we're going to address this one, but I'm sure it'll be good.
We'll see what happens.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Leave us a comment if you have a thought about anger or wrath. And we'll see you next time right here on Bad Relationship Advice. This is Damian and Monika.